The deadliest threat to ancient humans wasn't always something they could see. It didn't roar like a lion. It didn't charge like a mammoth. Sometimes, it arrived as a cloud. Thousands of tiny insects filled the air. They crawled into your eyes. They bit through your skin. They covered your food. Every breath became a struggle to avoid swallowing them. In some places, escaping wasn't an option. The swarm stretched for kilometers. Today, mosquitoes alone are responsible for more than 600,000 deaths every year, making them the deadliest animals on Earth. But insects have been tormenting mammals for tens of millions of years, long before humans ever appeared. So how did ancient humans survive in a world where there were no insect repellents, no window screens, and no pesticides? The answer changes how you think about one of humanity's oldest survival skills. Because defeating insects wasn't about killing them. It was about understanding them. Around 300,000 years ago, the earliest Homo sapiens evolved in Africa, where warm temperatures and seasonal rains created ideal breeding conditions for mosquitoes, biting flies, ticks, and other parasites. Sites like Jebel Irhoud preserve some of the oldest known human fossils, reminding us that our species emerged in ecosystems where insects were a constant part of life. But insects weren't just annoying. They carry disease. Today, scientists know that mosquitoes transmit illnesses such as malaria, dengue, yellow fever, and several other viruses. Malaria alone has shaped human evolution so profoundly that genetic traits like the sickle cell mutation became common in some populations because they offered partial protection against the disease. That evolutionary battle has likely been unfolding for thousands of generations. Except there was a problem. Ancient humans had no idea what a parasite was. They couldn't see the microscopic organisms inside a mosquito. They didn't know why one bite left only an itch while another led to fever days later. All they could observe was a pattern. Certain places made people sick. Certain seasons brought more insects. Certain camps were safer than others. Those observations became knowledge. But here's where it gets stranger. One of humanity's greatest defenses against insects may have been invented for an entirely different reason: fire. Archaeological evidence from sites such as Wonderwork Cave suggests that humans were controlling fire by at least 1 million years ago, although researchers continue to debate exactly when regular fire use became widespread. At first glance, fire seems like protection from cold or predators, but smoke does something else. Modern studies have shown that smoke can significantly reduce mosquito activity. Even today, communities in parts of Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia still use smoky fires to keep biting insects away during the evening. Our ancestors didn't need to understand insect biology. They only needed to notice that camps with more smoke meant fewer bites. That's not the whole story. Smoke solved the problem only while the fire burned. During the day, people still had to hunt, gather plants, collect water, and travel through marshes and forests where insects were everywhere. Standing still wasn't an option. Running away wasn't practical. Humans needed another strategy, one that didn't depend on fire, and that strategy may have been hidden in the landscape itself. Around 1966, Canadian entomologist John B. Davies and other insect researchers documented a simple pattern that people living in mosquito-heavy regions had known for centuries. Mosquitoes don't breed everywhere. They need still water, a shallow pond, a flooded depression, a quiet marsh. Even a tree hollow filled with rain can become a nursery for hundreds of larvae. Ancient humans didn't know about larvae, but they could recognize the pattern. Camps built beside stagnant pools often brought unbearable swarms after sunset. Camps placed on breezy hills, rocky ground, or beside fast-moving rivers usually had far fewer insects. Over hundreds of generations, those observations became instinct. Choosing where to sleep wasn't only about finding water, it was about avoiding the insects that came with it. But here's where it gets stranger. Humans may have also turned to plants long before they understood chemistry. In many traditional societies, people burn aromatic plants, crush leaves onto their skin, or hang fragrant branches near sleeping areas to discourage biting insects. Modern research has shown that plants such as wild sage, eucalyptus, citronella, and certain species of basil release compounds that repel mosquitoes. No one knows exactly which prehistoric plants were used. Organic evidence rarely survives for tens of thousands of years. But archaeologists know ancient humans possessed an extraordinary knowledge of local vegetation. They identified edible roots, poisonous berries, medicinal bark, and useful fibers. It would be surprising if they ignored plants that made insect bites less frequent. Except there was another problem. Not every dangerous insect flies. Ticks waited in tall grass. Fleas hid inside animal nests. Lice spread wherever people lived in close contact. These parasites didn't arrive in noisy swarms. They traveled silently, and they followed humans wherever they went. In 2003, scientists analyzing human lice discovered something remarkable. Different species of lice appear to have evolved alongside humans for hundreds of thousands of years. One species lives on the scalp, another lives on clothing. The clothing louse revealed an unexpected clue. Because it can survive only in garments, researchers estimated that humans began wearing regular clothing at least 170,000 years ago. Clothing protected people from cold, but it also created a new habitat for parasites. Every solution created another challenge. That's not the whole story. Humans weren't fighting insects alone. They were fighting them together. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have long observed social grooming, people carefully removing parasites from each other's hair and skin. The behavior isn't unique to humans. Chimpanzees, baboons, and many other primates groom one another as well. But humans expanded the idea. Parents checked children. Partners checked each other. Grandparents checked grandchildren. A few minutes of careful grooming could remove dozens of parasites before they spread disease or laid eggs. Insects forced cooperation in ways that are easy to overlook today. The battle wasn't won by one strong individual. It was won by communities sharing knowledge, watching one another, and adapting to environments that insects had mastered for millions of years. Then archaeologists uncovered another clue. Some of humanity's earliest shelters weren't built only for warmth or protection from predators. Their location itself may have been chosen to escape something much smaller. As archaeologists mapped prehistoric camps across Africa and Eurasia, they noticed a recurring pattern. Many settlements weren't placed at random. People often chose elevated ground, open areas exposed to wind, or places where smoke from campfires could drift through the camp instead of collecting around it. Those choices made life more comfortable. They also made insects less comfortable. A steady breeze makes it difficult for mosquitoes to fly. Open terrain gives biting flies fewer places to rest. Dry ground supports far fewer insects than damp vegetation. Ancient humans didn't need to understand aerodynamics. They only needed to remember which camps left everyone covered in bites the next morning. But here's where it gets stranger. The greatest defense against insects may have been timing. Many mosquito species become most active at dusk and dawn. During those hours, hunter-gatherers could stay close to smoky fires, wear animal hides over exposed skin, or avoid wetlands until insect activity declined. Over generations, daily routines naturally shifted around the behavior of the insects themselves. Humans weren't changing nature, they were learning its schedule. That ability to observe patterns became one of our species' greatest strengths. Around 12,000 years ago, as agriculture spread through regions like the Fertile Crescent, people began living in permanent villages. For the first time, they couldn't simply leave when insects became unbearable. Stored grain attracted flies. Standing irrigation water created ideal mosquito breeding grounds. Larger populations allowed parasites to spread more easily. Ironically, settling down solved many survival problems while creating entirely new ones. The struggle with insects never ended. It simply changed. Today, scientists understand why mosquitoes locate us so efficiently. They detect the carbon dioxide you exhale, your body heat, and chemicals released through your skin. What feels like random bad luck is often the result of millions of years of evolution that turned mosquitoes into remarkably effective hunters. Humans evolved too. Genetic studies suggest diseases carried by insects helped shape parts of our immune system over thousands of generations. Natural selection favored people whose bodies were slightly better at surviving infections, and those traits gradually spread through populations. The battle wasn't fought in a single lifetime. It lasted across entire evolutionary histories. So, how did ancient humans survive swarms of insects? Not by wiping them out. That was impossible. Instead, they observed the landscape. They learned the seasons. They chose camps carefully. They used smoke from fire. They likely experimented with plants. They groomed one another. And they passed every successful strategy to the next generation. The same mind that learned to track mammoths also learned to outthink mosquitoes. That may seem like a small achievement, but tiny insects have killed far more humans than lions, bears, or wolves ever did. In the end, survival wasn't always about defeating the biggest predator. Sometimes it meant paying attention to the smallest one. Long before humans understood bacteria, parasites, or disease, they had already discovered a truth that still shapes your life today. The greatest threats are not always the loudest. Sometimes, they arrive on wings almost too small to hear.